Greetings, clay buddies here. Robert McMillan here in beautiful snowing Prince Edward Island on the east coast of Canada's maritime provinces. Sitting here, self-isolating in my studio and watching all these great videos come up of all these people working, through these terrible times. I hope that you are safe. I hope you are all healthy and hunkered down and fighting off the cabin fever that seems to be coming. Anyways, I wanted to do some throwing today. I've been doing a lot of throwing, and I've got a slightly different camera setup, so I'm going to be able to move it around a bit. So if it annoys you, it's okay. Just let me know if you can hear me and you can see everything properly. And there we go. So every so often I'll just reach out. So a lot of the things that I work on in my production line are mugs and small forms. And it translates a lot to the bigger forms as well, but for the most part, I do a lot of the same techniques. I just do them bigger, do them, you have a larger piece, and that's kind of how it works out. So anyways, I'm just going to start into throwing here. One of the first things I make sure I do is I have my clay. So I wedge out a lot of my clay ahead of time, and I put them into bags. And these pots that I'm going to make today are, for your reference, is 500 grams. And wow, Indiana. Oh, good. Look at all these people joining in. Well, wonderful. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them if I can read them. Otherwise, just bear with me. And I'm hoping that the light is good and that you can see everything around. And of course, as always, I've got my coffee. And this is just a test mug that I do these test mugs, and I put a whole bunch of glazes on them. But it's my standard coffee mug. So let's just start into this. One of the first things I do is make a pad of clay on the wheel. I don't, let's get that in there. I start with just a small ball of clay, and I make a pancake, just like that. And then I put my finger marks in it, just like that. Can you see that? Good. And it is just the way that I've been working for the longest time. And one of the things, we're going to get that in there. One of the things about that is that I really like working on a pad of clay. I have bat holders. I use them for larger pieces, but for small things, that's what I use. So I use this. That's just a wooden 6-inch bat, and then I also use tiles. And these are just, bisque tiles, and they're really great as well, but they tend to wear my hands out quicker. I prefer these. So this just goes on the center like so, and I lightly tap it down. That's all I do. Now, these are going to be 500-gram mugs. And like I say, I weigh them out first. Yes, good morning from Ontario. Boy, hometown. Anyways, the first thing I'll do is I center, of course. Now, most of my work is cone 6 porcelain. And I do a lot of that kind of stuff, and it's really simple stuff. Yep, there we go. And I really like it because it's smooth and soft. Now the first thing is you massage the bottom. And one of the last things I do is I do this big swirl into the mug. There we go. There, can you see that? How's that? There we go. There we go. So I put this big swirl in the inside there, and I like swirls. I mean, everything's going around and around anyway, so now I do the first pull. Now when I pull, I leave the lip thick. I like a nice thick lip because it gives you more strength at the top. So I pull in there and I do the second pull. And I leave that clay on the surface and the lip. I leave the lip thick. There we go. And then I do one more pull, and this pull is more of a shaper. And I tend to take it out a bit and just kind of lazily bring it back in a bit. So that's, 3 pulls. There we go. Now, the reason I like that thick lip is because I like the strength that it gives on the lip of the pot. And when you start altering things, you'll know what I mean. The alteration can be very hard on the form itself. And so I leave that bead on the lip so that it will, give me strength. So one of the other things I like to do, and this is just a technical thing that I like to add in, I like to put a little bit of that in there. It's just like I'm using this tool on a 45-degree angle or so, and I'm just running it along that lip. And the reason for that is that I like a lip in which the glaze can sit up on. Okay, so then I just kind of chamois that. This is just a piece of chamois that I use. It just sits here on my bucket. How's that doing so far? Everybody okay? Now, I use this. I have a spray bottle, and I just like to get a little bit of water on there before I do the alteration. But one of the first alterations I do, and I like this when it's really dry, is I will just scrape all that slime, I scrape all that stuff off of the side of the pot, and then I dry my hands. And then this is to make an undulating lip. Okay? There we go. And the nice thing about this technique, it's about pulling the lip. So what I do is I'm pulling up. And I'm not so much squeezing, I'm not pinching and squeezing too much. What I'm doing is I'm lifting the clay. So I'm lifting that up. And I don't let my hand go over the edge of the lip because I want to maintain that lip. So I lift and I slowly drag my hand across. I just kind of do that. And I usually do it with 2 fingers because I just kind of like that to be like that. So now I have this really interesting undulating lip. And it's kind of interesting doing this on the camera because, I'm trying to make them as even and as possible. So then I take the rib and I just run it over slightly, that area. And I basically re-rib it all. And what I'm trying to do is get rid of those finger marks. And what I mean by that are the pinch marks that I made when I did that. So now I take my dry fingers. Dry fingers there, Betsy. I use dry fingers and I dry my hands and, So now what I do is I go really slow and I roll that little chamois up and over that mark. And you just, all I'm doing is slightly pressing just to smooth that edge down. Just like that. So that now, you know, that's kind of that's the thing there. So you can see that. So now, what I will do is I'll use the water. I have the water bottle, and first I charge it up, and I give it 1-2 squirts. I just put just a little bit on there of fine mist. The reason I do this is because when I go to do the alteration, I like a nice smooth surface. So I use this. This is my credit cards, old credit cards. Okay? Yeah, better hide the numbers, yeah. But the credit cards are really nice because they have a really nice angle on them, right? This little edge is so nice on the clay. So now I hold this guy. I can hold it like this. I can hold it like this. There's a lot of different angles. But I really like it like this. And I just dig in and I slowly go along and I breathe and then I come right up off the edge. And I'll even put another one in there, but it's a different line. Okay, and then I will also, now, you see, so I have this nice undulation going on here. And, you know, I've got a little bit of muck on there, but that's okay. So that credit card did that. And then what I do is on the inside, I'm going to use my finger, and I'm going to, this part here, oh, there it is. This part here, this is my driving finger. And so I'm going to bend it slightly, and I'm going to follow this line right here. I'm going to get right in between the groove on the inside, right there, you see? And I'm going to push out slightly as it goes around and pull up. And so I just find that, there it is. And I do it again. And all I'm doing is adding a nice little undulating ripple. So now, this is the next piece. This is my fancy trimming tool. It's shaped in a way that, you know, allows for this little angle. It's a little right angle, and it's just carved. It's just an old tool that I sanded down into this form. I find it really nice. And I just pull it into the bottom here. And I use it as a shaper, and then I turn it slightly. And that creates this really nice bottom. You see? There we go. Now, for those of you who know, I have a bucket down at my left foot because that's where all my scraps go. And I use those scraps later. Okay, so now I have this tool. Oh, yeah, a little bit. So this is just a stick that I found. It's been washed by the ocean. And I just love these. You know, they have this really nice, smooth edge to them. Now, what I'm going to do here is bring you in. And there we go. So what I do now is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create this undulation pushing out. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I like 5. 5 is a good number. There we go. And so now I have this really nice, these bumps on the outside. And then I wet my hand and my finger, and I'm going to push this back in just a hair. Do you see that? See, I push in, and I push in between the bumps. Just like that. And it's just a gentle little push. And the reason I do that is I really like the undulating angles, you know, that occur. And so bring that in. So now you can see, is the light good enough for you guys? Can you see that? So there now I've got some really nice activity going on here. And I have some really nice lights and dark shadows kind of creating here. And then I have this really nice up. And so what the last thing I do is I'll just run my finger on the inside of that. And that's about it. So this then becomes this. So I'm just going to cut that off with my wire. There we go. And then there we go. So this is a lot of what I do. I do these all the time. And, you know, there it is there. It's got some really nice angle. And it's got this undulating lip, which I really like. I like the undulation that occurs in here and here. Now, I like this plane space, but I like it where, you know, in here, you can see that the line just trails off. And that, I really like that. I like the idea that the line just kind of trails off, you know, and it just sort of disappears into the mug, and there's some ripples, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. And this is what I call glaze catchers. And these glaze catchers allow for the glaze to run in and out and create even more patterns. So, oh, hi Leslie. So then, you know, again, there we go. A little bat here. I'm going to come down. There we go. Oh, yeah. Put the bat on. So, some of the other things that I do. Did you want to see that again? Oh, thank you, Stacy. And Lily. Lily, hi, Lily. Lily is my granddaughter. So, this device has been really useful for me. There it is there. This guy here. So, I built this. It's a very technical thing. And basically, what I did was I just took a little wing nut and some screws. And this is really good, by the way, for you for building up your throwing skills. Yes, drinking from the uneven lip. Well, that comes down to where you put the handles. And I'll show you that some work later. So anyways, this comes off. Not great. Gets gummed up in clay. So what I did was I took this dowel and I drilled some holes in it, and I took these two pieces of wood and I stuck them together and I put this in. And so what I did is that just goes in there, and I actually put holes here too, so I can raise this thing up and down. I think this cost me about $4. And then I have a little washer here, and the little washer is a rubber plastic washer, and then a little metal washer, and then a little wing nut. And so this guy just screws on there, and I can tighten it. Now this thing sits here at the front of my wheel, just like so, and I can raise it up and down. I also have a nail here. I put a nail on because I can then hang my wire on that. And I find that that's, you know, by having that wire hanging there, that it really helps, you know, to find the wire, because I hate the wire, you know, in around the wheel, because when I'm working and you're making a lot of pots, the wire falls in, and when it falls in, it's like, oh my God, I might get caught up in the wire, and you know, like, anyways, the little fear thing there. So anyways, okay, so here we go again. So I have here 500 grams of clay. And there we go. Yeah. So I just take this off for now. Whoa. So these are production that I do. And first thing I do is I center that really fast. Oh, I got these small bats at Tucker's Pottery in Richmond Hill in Toronto. And I can send you the website. You just buy them, you know. So the first thing I do is I get this guy up, and I always keep that lip thick. Again, I come up. And I like to keep it in a bit too. Okay, now the last pull is more of a shaper. I've kind of been liking this shape. It's kind of a U shape, you know, and it's a really nice shape. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so then I scrape. And I scrape. I like a smooth surface. The smooth surface is really nice to allow the information that I'm putting on there. And this one's a little thinner. Okay. And now, this guy, I bring this down, and I bring it down to right about the height. You know, give or take a little bit, you know, like it's not rocket science, right? There we go. Hey, what do you think of my mobile cam? Is it a little annoying, or do you find it helpful? It's just, oh, look at that. Too thin. Grab my wire, off it comes. That's the problem with doing demos. You know? Oh, get out. Tends to be, I tend to keep this area here a little thicker. And I forgot to do that. But that's okay. See, I have my marker now. So this is, this stick, I've been using it a lot more and more because I find it gives you a target to throw to. It helps in your consistency of working, and it's like a challenge. And for me, that's really kind of fun. It's like a sport, you know? And, well, I'm gonna have to. There we go. These things are not scrolling down. Oh, till you wreck it. Yeah, so anyways, I got that down. So I'm just gonna lightly lift that up. I do drag my fingers across it a bit. Now, I don't do the same undulation all the time. I try to just, I do 3 because I really like, oh, coffee time. What's Grandpa doing? He is making a mug. Okay. Now it's perfect to see you also have the same issues at times. Oh, yeah. Totally. I get a little pile of things. Sometimes I just go too far, too fast, too much, you know. So there we go. So that's kind of the thing. One of the other things I've been doing, and this is really fun, and you're going to see this if I can do this, is I will follow that around and I'll bring my finger, just turn my nail into the mug and try to create an indent. There we go. See, it's a very fine thing. You know, there's a little indent in there, and it just kind of creates another line for the glaze to work its way into. There we go. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Okay. So again, this guy, spray bottle, it doesn't take much. If you use too much water, okay, it'll weaken it and it'll collapse later. So again, just a lazy line, just and then bring it right up. And I like the second line, and I like it to be at a different speed. I like 2 lines coming up that are at different speeds. So now then I grab that, there we go. It's just a slight little undulation that I put in there. Now that's pretty close, up to that stick. And then again, this guy, I create the bottom. Then we go out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wet my finger before I push that in. Now, it doesn't take a lot of push, just a little bit here. And there it is. Just a nice kind of undulating thing. So, there again, this is, oh, there we go. So there it is again, okay? Slight undulation in the lip, nice bulges just for glazes to kind of run around and do stuff with. And, you know, it's a fairly thin, you know, it's a good size mug, you know. And I'll put a handle on it, and it'll be, you know, somewhere out there. So, trimming these guys, so I just take that clay and I pull it in into a little dome, and I like to dry it off with these ribs. Get rid of that. So the mug, there we go. So this is one I worked on yesterday, and it's already dry. So this will now sit on there pretty good. fairly simple, okay? I have very simple trimming tools. This one, for instance, I've been using this one lately because it's got square on flat on both sides, and that's kind of cool. But these are like $4 or $5 each. They're really cheap. You know, I don't have the really expensive Bison, you know, silicone carbide. So the thing about the trimming is I can only trim here to here, okay? I don't trim all the way down. So here's the thing, guys. When you're throwing these and you're throwing an altered form, throw it so that you only have a little bit of trimming. So that means you need to throw at least 90 to 95% of the mug. And then the trimming is just to clean it up, right? You're just cleaning it up a little bit there, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to clean this up a bit. There we go. And I'm just going to trim into that up to the undulating, bulging bit. And I trim flat bottoms, but not quite. Okay? There's a slight curvature in that. Okay, there's a slight bend. It just kind of, you know, it's not perfect in there flat. It's just and you see those trimming marks? I like them. I leave them. I'm not too worried about it. Now here's the trick. This part here, I'm just going to run my tool up and over that. And so I trim very slowly. You see, I just kind of follow those undulations up, and I just kind of clean it up. All right? Let me get these things off. It's just a lazy, slow way of going. Just like so. There we go. And then I just take this guy here and I just clean it up a bit, get rid of the nits. And then the last thing I do is I will sign it. There we go. I got this little guy, and this is has a little ball on the end. I really like this. And that's just when I sign it. I always sign the bottom of my pot. I also have a stamp, and I will stamp it later when I put the handle on. So there we go. So that's pretty much it. I haven't really damaged the form. There's a few little marks on it, but I'll just clean those up. This will now have a handle that I will then put on, and you know, once they dry up a bit. Now, the thing around these forms is that they're very simple and gentle. I really like the idea of clay being soft, and the softness of the clay coming out in the form is really nice. So here we go. I put that back down. Okay. So that's a fairly simple alteration, right? I always start the same way. I put that spiral in the bottom. The last thing I do. Now, when I'm doing a wider latte mug, I will start with a slightly wider bottom. And each time I come out, I will keep that lip you know, thick right there, especially on the wide mugs. And I will then bring that up nice. It just adds for strength. And one of the strength is in the firing. Thin pots, and especially ones with thin lips, have a tendency to warp. But I find that the pot that has a thick lip doesn't warp so much. So I just used the rib on the inside, and I use that like so, and I just kind of bring it down the side there, and just to clean that up and also to smooth that wall out. Now, I don't usually undulate the lips on the wide ones, but I have. But I kind of like just the straight lip. There we go. Just kind of like that. Now, I always try to get a little bit of water in there, but to smooth that out. So this here at the bottom, I don't use that tool until I've done the undulations and fixing it up. Yeah. I love stepping in, stepping up. So again, a little bit of spray, just a bit. And this time, I'm not going to go a spiral all the way up because I kind of like this other idea here. I've got this line here, right about there. There's a change in the direction, and I'll just put a lazy line along there, and then I'll go whoop, and whoop, and one more. There we go. Now, this alteration is very much similar to the other one, but this time I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to push it away. And I put my hand inside, like so. And I'm going to start somewhere here, and I push out and I push away like that. You see? Just that line. But I also put a few more in there. I just like little marks in there. You see there? Little marks? So then I go around, and I'm going to put 3 of these in. 1, 2, and then the third one somewhere on the triad. Now, so you see I've got lots of little marks going on here, lots of little lines and stuff. I really like that because it allows places for glaze. And then I just put that back into shape. I use my chamois. Now, the other thing I'll do here is I will push in just right here, just a slight push in. You see that? I'm just pushing in there, you see? Just like that, you know. Just these, they're there. I put a little push in there, you see? And then one of the last things I will do, and this is something that I've started, you know, paying more attention to. Okay, so this guy here, this is just a dowel. And the first thing I do is I wet it, and I find the space that I'm going to do this at, and I just kind of take it like so, and I put my finger up here to brace this. I push in and drag that up. There. You see that? Yeah. So that, okay, that's where the handle's going to go, okay? And I like this idea that it allows your hand to come in a bit. So that's pretty much the mug. Oh, yeah. There we go. How you doing? Now, there's a lot of things you can do here. I mean, I just kind of like this mug as it is. It's a really big, wide latte mug. Doesn't have to be that wide. And, you know, you can just, I just take this though, I just carve a little bit off of that one. I just use this tool here on the bottom like this. I don't use this one on these mugs because it distorts it too much. So again, I can just pop that off. So that's a kind of a nice mug. It's going to have a handle right here, right where I've pushed it in there. And you could probably put that all over the whole thing if you wanted to. Okay. So anyways, that's about all I have for today for you, because I just jumped in and, you know, I have to actually get to work. And I hope that everybody's doing really well in these times. And hi, Lindsay. And I hope you're all keeping safe, self-isolating in your studios. I've locked the door, nobody's coming in, and it's just me and the clay, just the way I like it. And I hope that you got something out of this. And please, if you have any questions, please ask. I am always open to explaining all the things that I do and all the little tricks that I've learned over the years. And I will show you the mug that with the undulating lip. It works just fine. Anyways, remember, and this is really important, it's all about the clay. It's all about the feel of the clay, and let the clay shine through on your work, and that's what I like to do. And if it's not perfect, I don't care, really. I don't care. Don't let it be the focus. Perfection is impossible. So bye for now from beautiful Prince Edward Island here on the east coast of Canada's maritime provinces. And stay safe and take it easy. How do we get out of here?